All right, it is a Thursday football preview podcast. Everything you need to know about NC State. We'll do our prop shop, Dabbundo's digits, and make our picks for this big game. Can Syracuse clinch bowl eligibility down in Raleigh? We'll give you our thoughts next.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We welcome you on in and thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every single weekday. Tim Leonard, Tyler Aki, a little bit jacked up to talk about this football game today. It's a big game, Ty. We need this win against NC State. You can find us wherever you find your podcast. You can also find us on Twitter at @LO_Syracuse. And we are on YouTube as well if you want to see our faces as we make our bad Syracuse takes. You can go to YouTube, subscribe to the show there. If you haven't already, we've been dropping some bonus content on the YouTube page as well. But
I don't think anybody actually watched our last show. They saw the headline and just got angry and commented.
Well, the
that's
Benny
what
Williams
it was.
one,
The Benny
right?
Williams one. Should we be worried about Benny Williams? We literally said no, and everyone got mad in the comments. But hey, that's what happens when you just read the headlines.
Right. I think the headline was a little attention grabbing. Maybe it was like, is it time to panic? No, it's not time to panic. But we had some thoughts on Benny Williams. So if you missed that, that was our last podcast. Also, before we get into NC State, news comes out yesterday. Geoff Cantin-Arku is entering the portal. He is now the sixth Syracuse player to enter the transfer portal this season. 8 players have left the program. We didn't even touch on Dylan Markowitz, which was back on Sunday at the quarterback position. But Geoff Cantin-Arku, a guy that had pretty decent expectations to be one of the key linebackers going into this year, maybe didn't play as much as you would have thought or he might have thought. And just another one of those that's sort of weirdly coming in the middle of the season. But I guess that's the new era of college football.
Right. You want to get to your next team as quickly as possible because who knows when that spot at a school that you might want to go to is going to be scooped up. It can happen at any moment. And with Cantin-Arku, like, I get it. These guys want to get to their next destination, go play in the spring game, all that stuff, and just be ready to go for the next season as opposed to trying to battle things out for a spot in the summer.
Right. So anyway, wish him all the best. Kind of bummed to see that one.
Did you see, by the way, what Dino said about Markowitz? I thought this was kind of interesting. He said, Dylan did it the right way. And I don't know about you, kind of felt like a shot at Tommy DeVito.
No, because he was so supportive of DeVito, too. I mean, he basically said the same stuff about how
to say
DeVito
he did it the right way, I don't know. It kind of felt like a low blow on DeVito, in my opinion.
Well, I think you have to go back and remember what he said about DeVito, because remember in that Monday presser, he was like, Tommy came in, we had a great chat, he's always going to be my guy. I just don't think that there was any bad blood there. But Markowitz, I mean, it makes sense, right, that he left as well, because there's a lot of quarterbacks, and Schrader looks decent at least in terms of throwing the football, a lot to be desired, but he's going to be there for 2 more years, and I don't see him really.
And then the succession plan after that is likely Justin Lamson, not Dylan Markowitz.
Yeah, and
so.
Jacoby and Morgan probably is ahead of Dylan as well. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
right. This is going to.
I will say this: did you see? Dino was asked too, can a pocket passer thrive in this offense? And he said, yeah. And this is what he does now. He always points to Jimmy Garoppolo. Listen, man, if you're going to find an NFL caliber quarterback, make his way to Syracuse, then fine. You can use the Jimmy G comps. I haven't seen an NFL caliber quarterback come to Syracuse in quite some time. Okay? So unless you're an NFL prototype and a guy that can make it in the league, let's stop saying that the Jimmy G stuff, because let's be honest, you got lucky that you had a guy who really worked hard and thrived and found his way up to the NFL level and shot up draft boards. But to say that a pocket passer can, quote unquote, thrive in this offense, it probably can, but let's stop using Jimmy G as the benchmark here. That's an NFL caliber quarterback. That was a 2nd-round pick in the NFL.
Well, it's all they have to sell, right? And that's why they're doing it. And I think when they go into the living room of Justin Lamson, they say, or I guess he's not maybe the best example because he's not a quote-unquote pocket passer.
Let's say Jacoby and Morgan. He's a pocket passer.
Jacoby and Morgan maybe better suited. They're saying, hey, remember, you've heard of Jimmy G. You saw him in the Super Bowl. He was nothing, kind of like you were. when we were recruiting him, and then we made him into something in this offense. So I think that's why they're selling that. It's not like Jimmy G was some 5-star that they somehow happen to get.
He's an FCS quarterback. He probably didn't have any stars. I'd have to go look, but.
All right, well, let's get into NC State. So going to be a tough matchup. I'm pretty scared, honestly, the more I dig into them, because they have the best rush defense we will play all season, and that includes Clemson. Their rush defense is tops in the ACC. It's 11th nationally in yards per game. By the way, State is 7-3. They're 20th in the college football playoff rankings right now. And they've lost 3 road games. The latest was last week against Wake, a high-scoring 45-42 loss, but they're 5-0 at home. They seem to have had our number for the most part. And really, I guess the only time we beat them in the Dino era was the time that we did clinch bowl eligibility. So maybe that's a good omen that this is another chance to do it against NC State here. But I'm a little scared because they match up so well against us in terms of their best quality is stopping the run and our best quality is running the football.
Right. It's a really tough matchup. NC State looks really strong defensively, and that's even with some of their top players going out for the season with injury as well, which just shows that Dave Doran's done a really good job at retooling this defense and making sure guys are ready when their time comes and when they are called upon in the event of an emergency, which it seems like has been a number of times. I look at one key statistic here that really scares me, and that is the third down defense for NC State. 6th best in the entire country, holding opponents under 30%. And when you have a really strong third down defense like that, it sets you up really well against quarterbacks that can't throw the football, which is kind of what Syracuse has right now. So when you mix those two factors together, it can be concerning, because once you get to third down, unless you're 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, you're probably have to throw the football, and you're not going to have a lot of success against this NC State defense.
Right, and they were really the only defense that has ever managed to sort of stop Sean Tucker somewhat, because I look back at every single game log that Sean Tucker has had. He seems to always do great as long as he's gotten a good amount of carries. Last year, held to 18 yards on just 16 carries, but still, it's a good chunk of carries. He was the starting running back in this game. Last year's game, we lost inside the dome 36-29. That was the infamous Rex Culpepper spike at the end when it was 4th down. Not a fun one to remember, but look, a lot of those guys are back for NC State. Thayer Thomas had 3 touchdowns in that game last year. He's back. Their running backs, Bam Knight, Ricky Person, they've been there for a while. Now it's a new quarterback, at least to us, Devin Leary, who is 3rd in the ACC in passing touchdowns right now. He's got 29 on the season. He's only behind Kenny Pickett and Sam Hartman. We know what Sam Hartman did to us in terms of scoring the football. I think NC State has really just a solid all-around team.
And they do it on both sides, too. I think the one thing about NC State coming into this season was there was a question mark at quarterback and really surrounding the passing game in general. And Devin Leary has silenced a lot of those doubters. NC State has shown the ability to play in any type of game. Shootout, defensive rock fight, and anything in the middle. And that, to me, is a sign of a well-rounded football team that offensively sound and good fundamentals, and defensively very intelligent. And they know how to break up certain schemes, and they know how to take away your strengths. I know we've said Sean Tucker is matchup proof, and I still believe that. I still believe he can have a very good game, but I just don't know if that's going to necessarily be the recipe for success, because he might not have a good game in terms of his total yardage in this one, but I'd still imagine to have a decent yards per carry in this game, but he might not get the volume of carries because Syracuse could find themselves down 2-3 scores early, and then it's kind of ball game over. You got to go to the air.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you said that. We're actually going to pick Sean Tucker's over-under in just a second. Going to dive into the prop shop. But how does your favorite restaurant consistently make such delicious food? The short answer is they have access to the right kitchen tools. With Made In's professional quality cookware and kitchenware, anyone is capable of making restaurant quality food at home. Made In produces professional quality cookware for those who love to cook. They source the finest materials and partner with renowned craftsmen to make premium kitchen tools available directly to you without the markup as well. Made In products are made to last, and they offer a lifetime guarantee. They have 40,000 plus 5-star reviews, and their products are used by some of the world's best chefs at Michelin-starred restaurants around the world. Made In, better cookware for better meals. Right now, Made In is offering our listeners 15% off your first order with our promo code Locked On. This is the best discount available anywhere online for made-in products. Go to madeincookware.com/locked on. Use our promo code Locked On for 15% off your first order. That's madeincookware.com/locked on. Use the promo code Locked On. All right, so diving into the prop shop, which continues to get bleaker and bleaker for me on this end. 1-5 last week for me, so I'm now down. Gosh, this is tough to say. 1150 overall in the year. I'm 25-35-1. Ty, you're 29-31-1, and somehow you're winning by a huge margin. Like, it's not even that great of a record, but it's good enough. You're down 60 overall. Our first one this week, courtesy of PrizePicks, they have set this over-under. You can go to PrizePicks and bet on this yourself. Sean Tucker over-under 110.5. I got to say, that's a high number for as good of a defense that we just laid out. I was sort of trying to guess the lines, play that role for what PrizePicks was going to set it at. I thought this was going to be our lowest one so far. I know Sean Tucker continuously hits the overs, it seems like, in these, but I hate to say it. I think I have to go under at that number.
I'm with you. I just don't think he's going to get enough carries in this game to reach that number. Like, unless he busts off a 45, 50-yard run, I don't know if he's going to get to that number. And it's not necessarily because he's having a bad game. It's more because, well, I just don't think Syracuse is going to run the football as much because they're going to fall behind early.
Right. All right, next one is Garrett Schrader's over-under, also courtesy of PrizePicks here, and his passing yards over-under is 149.5. What do you like there?
This is a tough one because that's a low number, but this is still a good NC State pass defense as well, and I'm going to go under here. I just think offensively this is going to be a struggle. This game is going to be predicated on what Syracuse can do defensively. So if they don't show up on defense, then this is going to be ugly because I think you need to turn this into a game like Clemson from a couple of months ago now, and try to turn it into like a 17-14. Give yourself a shot at the end.
Yeah, I was a little torn on this one. I guess I'll take the over because I'm trying to catch up on you, even though that's kind of a fool's errand at this point. But look, he hasn't done anything in the past couple weeks to inspire any confidence that he's going to hit the over. But it does feel like NC State's way more vulnerable through the air than they are defensively on the ground. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that maybe the game plan's a little bit better. And he does give us, I mean, he's shown us flashes of passing the football when it's going back to Virginia Tech and games like that. He's going to need to do it in this game. So I'll ride with the over there. Our next one, first Syracuse touchdown. We always do this every week. And there was no touchdown last week, so we did not hit, unfortunately. But Sean Tucker plus 1,000 leads the way. Garrett Schrader to run it in plus 180. Damian Alford plus 600. Anthony Quealy plus 650. And then Courtney Jackson also plus 650. And then if you want to go no TD, other defensive TD, anything like that, it is plus 700 odds. And actually, that's what I'm going to do because I'm trying to catch up.
I'm trying to think, has that hit a single time this year?
Well, it would have hit last week because there wasn't
it would have hit last week because there wasn't, but
yeah,
it could be that sort of game again. I mean, the offensive line is going to have to show up against some of these big boys up front for NC State. I think Syracuse gets on the board at some point in this game, whether it's in garbage time or whatnot. So give me Sean Tucker. I'll take Sean Tucker and the easy money at the top.
Right. All right, well, we're going to get into our picks of the spread from betonline.ag, and they are back and better than ever, by the way. A new web interface for the start of basketball season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all basketball and football action this season. Just head over to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code Locked On to receive that 50% welcome bonus. Basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC. There's tons of stuff to bet on. They even have your favorite Vegas casino games right now as well. So don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the games start. And BetOnline gives us our number for this game, which is pretty high. Syracuse is 11.5-point dogs on the road in Raleigh against NC State. Sort of a weird number. I think if it was 10, I'd jump on it from the Syracuse standpoint. 11.5, I guess from a NC State standpoint, I should say, if it was a little bit lower, but it's sort of in that range that makes me think that they sort of believe this game could get ugly like Louisville was last week as well.
Right. I'm with you. It's a weird line. It's a little higher than I thought it would be too. But as you dive into the numbers, it starts to make a little bit more sense. 11.5 it's a lot, especially between two teams that see each other every single year as well.
Right.
But I mean, NC State is just the much better football team right now, much more sound in all facets of the game. So I'm gonna roll with NC State. I'm gonna eat the 11.5 and try to get a winner here.
Right. I just think if they're going to become bowl eligible, I don't see it happening here in Raleigh. Unfortunately,
I'm with you.
Maybe it is going to be like last time where Dino just only clinches bowl games against NC State. And it's not like we've gotten blown out by NC State. And I'm not saying NC State's unbeatable or anything like that, but I just don't like the fact that run defense is their strength. And whenever we go up against
if you can't throw the ball,
their strength.
If you can't throw the ball, then it does feel like they're unbeatable.
Right. And look, they've had some decent wins at home. They beat Clemson at home. They beat Louisville by 2 scores at home. They won on the road at Florida State this year. We've talked about how they're an all-around team. Just looking at their numbers, total offense 53rd in the country, total defense 23rd right now in FBS. So they can beat you both ways. And they did give up a lot of points to Wake Forest last time out, but that's Wake Forest. Wake Forest can throw the football. Syracuse is going to have to do some stuff that they haven't been able to do against good defenses in terms of passing the football in this game if they want to win. And they're going to have to hit some big plays to swing the game, a turnover or two, because they do feel like true underdogs in this one. And I didn't really feel that way going into Louisville. It definitely played out that way. So I'm concerned overall.
If you had to set a point total, because I don't think the team total for Syracuse is out on betonline.ag, but if you had to set it right now and guess what it would be, how many points do you think Syracuse is scoring in this game?
So the over-under is 50.5. I don't know. I mean, I think 13.5 for Syracuse's offense.
That sounds about
like
right.
That.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
I was right in that neighborhood of like 13.5, 14. I mean, this is just too good of a defense at this point, and you haven't shown the ability really, save the one game against Virginia Tech, to throw the football. So that it just concerns me that, and you hear Schrader come out after the game last week and say, we went down 2-3 scores and it felt like this game was over. That shouldn't be the case in a football game where we see high-flying offenses left and right. This shouldn't be the case. Your alma mater, or I guess not alma mater, your former school in Mississippi State went out and came back from a 28-3 deficit earlier in that day. So just because you're down 3 scores doesn't mean the game should be over. But it feels like with the Syracuse team, it certainly is.
Yeah. So our picks are NC State to cover that 11.5. But the guy that really knows everything there is to know about betting is Anthony Dabbundo. And he's always given us the great numbers every single week. So let's kick it over to our guy, Anthony Dabbundo, for Dabundo's Digits.
The numbers you need to know. Anthony Dabbundo breaks down the biggest stats for this week's Syracuse matchup. Everybody! Dabundo's Digits. If you ain't taking stats, kick the out the class. On the Locked On Syracuse Podcast.
The magic number and digit of the week is 43. That's the percentage chance that SP Plus gives the Orange of winning at least one of their final 2 games and reaching bowl eligibility. The game on Saturday at NC State is the tougher of the 2 remaining tests. The Wolfpack are the best run defense the Orange have faced all year, even better than Clemson. NC State has a better offense than the Tigers, but its defense is similarly elite at stopping the run. If you can stop the run, you can pretty much stop Syracuse, and for that reason, it's hard to see how the Orange consistently move the ball and score on Saturday in Raleigh. The Wolfpack have the 4th best defense in the country by rushing success rate allowed, and the 21st best by defensive line yards. The Wolfpack rank among the top 30 nationally in both tackling and coverage grades according to PFF. NC State has a similarly good defense against the pass too, ranking 14th in passing success rate allowed, and they don't allow many big plays either. They're 22nd there. This is an elite defense. Syracuse's offensive line didn't have a terrible game based on line yards against Louisville, but the main issue was falling behind early. Syracuse had a 10% success rate on passing downs. The inability to find explosive plays against a vulnerable Louisville defense doomed them. The Orange cannot fall behind Saturday, or it will be a struggle to dig back into it, given how limited they are offensively through the air. On the other side of the ball, Louisville had a 58% overall success rate, 63% on early standard downs, both alarming and the highest overall rate the Orange have allowed all season. Something about the Cardinals is just a nightmare matchup for Syracuse, but NC State presents a bit of a different challenge. They're a pass-heavy offense. They don't bother much to establish the run. Syracuse has not faced many quarterbacks with the passing ability of Devin Leary this year, though, and the one they did face in Wake Forest's Sam Hartman threw for 330 yards. The Wolfpack throw at the 9th highest rate in the country. A lot of passes. They prevent negative plays well, not much havoc, and they have a better red zone offense this year than Syracuse does red zone defense. Those are all edges for NC State. But one potential problem for the Wolfpack, they don't generate a ton of big plays. They're just 55th in big plays created and facing one of the best big play defenses in the country in Syracuse, even if the Orange didn't quite look like that last week. And NC State is also 113th in pass blocking. They're facing a Syracuse pass rush that's got production from all over the defensive line. It's actually been one of the biggest surprisingly positive units of the season. That's where the Orange have the defensive edges, and they'll need to be stellar to overcome the edges that NC State has with both defense and, of course, special teams, where the Orange have really struggled this season. NC State is still playing for an outside shot at a conference title game appearance. Given the matchup, it's tough to see how the Orange pull this one out. But Orange fans should be rooting for Pittsburgh to beat Virginia and clinch the ACC Coastal this week in hopes of catching the Panthers napping next week in the Dome with bowl eligibility likely on the line. Not saying they can't keep this close, but it's tough to see how the Orange pull this upset off.
All right, so sounds like Anthony Dabbundo, pretty similar to us this week in terms of his thinking there. Thanks as always to him. Follow him on Twitter at Anthony Dabbundo. Check out his Action Network plays as well. You can follow him on that app, and he's been getting some college basketball plays up there as well. So it's that time of the year where he's thriving right now with college sports in the crossover season. But our final line to pick here from betonline.ag, we touched on it a little bit. The over-under for this game set at 50.5. I feel like we've probably been better on projecting the over-unders than we have on projecting the actual Syracuse games recently.
Yeah.
I don't have a great lean on this one. I would probably stay away, but I lean under because there is potential, like last week, that the game gets out of hand. And I hate to say that. I know a lot of people are going to be like, why are you guys so negative on this podcast? But look, the defense didn't inspire much last week, so there's a chance that NC State sort of helps get this over 50 just by scoring. But I think there's a good chance that NC State gets up, and NC State kind of wins games ugly. Like looking through their scores, they have won some games in the 28-12, 28-14 type of range.
Right. I will say this, though. Even though I lean towards the under a little bit, I think this total going under helps Syracuse. If it hangs under, usually, especially with double-digit underdogs, it helps you. But it could also be one of those games where it's 31-3 and the total goes over and you still get blown out. So I'm going to go with the under 50.5.
All right. Well, not much confidence from our end for the NC State game. I think I'm going to be a lot more optimistic about Pittsburgh. That's where I think they do clinch bowl.
Real quick.
If it happens.
Yeah, real quick. What is the more winnable game, Pitt or NC State in your eyes?
It's definitely Pitt, right? Like it's at home. Pitt could be sort of caught napping as Dabbundo laid out after a Coastal win this week. I'm definitely rooting for Pitt to win this week. I don't think it makes a huge difference, but we've talked about a little bit earlier in the week. I just like our chances against offensive-minded teams. We're going to be able to run the football against Pitt. We're going to be able to get our offense into a groove a little bit. We're at home, crowd on our side. I think it's a much more winnable game.
If the crowd shows up, yeah. Hopefully the crowd shows up. But I think with Pitt, I don't think it's going to be a Panthers team that's napping. I'll put it that way, just because of the fact that you are playing for a better bowl game at that point. And also, I think they're rallying around Kenny Pickett, too, as trying to get him to New York to be a Heisman finalist. So I don't think Kenny Pickett is going to be napping because every game for him counts the rest of the way from a Heisman standpoint. So I think they're both very tough. I'm with you, though. I'd lean slightly that Pitt is the team. But hey, if you turn this NC State game into a rock fight, I like Syracuse's chances in a rock fight with NC State more than I do in a shootout with Pitt. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I guess they're both sort of leaning into their strengths, so it's a tough game to play, but I guess I'm with you there. All right, well, that is going to wrap up our Thursday podcast. We're here with you guys every single weekday, and we thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen. Check us out on Twitter. We'll be live tweeting the games this weekend, a lot of games this weekend to keep up on, so a good time to follow and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, totally free there. As well, we'll have our full Colgate preview. That game's going to be going on at the same time on Saturday. The basketball end of things is coming up on tomorrow's show. So until then, we will talk to you guys with the